Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and good morning to some. So, I will be talking to you about this growing movement. We're calling it Ferguson and Beyond. This movement lives. One thing we definitely want to get out there as protesters that are on the ground daily is that we're on the ground daily. We've been out, even though it's not in the media, we're not getting the coverage we used to get, but we are out daily. We have not stopped. It's very cold in St. Louis right now, but just like when it was extremely hot, we've been on the ground, we've been doing actions, and we will continue. We'll discuss the vision of the protesters, our demands, strategies, our successes and failures, the roadmap, where we're going, and then maintaining nonviolent discipline. On this particular slide, you can see the growing movement. We have these pictures are from all over the world, just by the spark of one incident that happened. It was a great tragedy, but this was one incident that sparked a protest all over the world. Next slide, please. The vision of this movement, if you ask any protester, is ending police brutality of Black and brown people. We have, it's almost to the point you kind of didn't pay it a lot of attention, and it's sad to say, but it didn't get, it didn't move you much. It was one of those things, okay, another one, another one, another one. But it wasn't until August 9th, 2014, with the death of Michael Brown and the way that it happened. And I think with just social media, how everything just came about and everyone was able to see how disgusting that played out. So in this slide, our vision is to go from having this picture where there are several people, there are just so many, every 28 hours, and sometimes even more than that, Black and brown lives are taken by police. So we want to go from that, and that list is, so much bigger, but we want to go from that picture to the next picture, which is the police saying that, yes, I agree, Black lives do matter, and I'm working toward making sure that not only am I saying it, I'm showing it to my buddy. I'm showing it to this fellow officer. And I'm not only showing it and saying it, I'm doing it with my actions. So Black lives do matter. And then to the very last slide, not one more. That's been a great hashtag throughout this movement, not one more. So that's where we want to be. We want people to see us. We want the police to see us as people. We want Black and brown men, people, not threats. So that's where we want to end up. Next slide, please. There are several demands from the protesters. This is just a list of a few of them. There are national demands, and then there are the demands just in Ferguson and St. Louis. So I'll go over these. This is from thedemands.org if you want to look it up. The first demand, political accountability for the death of Michael Brown Jr. And then that goes also with not only Michael Brown Jr., just the several deaths that we've had since Michael Brown, Jimmy Powell, Von Derek Myers Jr., and just Antonio Martin, and just so many others. So we want political accountability. We have elected people to office, and we're not seeing that they're for the people. We see that we got them in office, but then we lose the connection, especially with Governor Jay Nixon, Bob McCullough. We want to see them out. So number two, special prosecutor for all deadly force cases. There is no hope in Bob McCullough here in St. Louis. So we want a special prosecutor. We want that there is, we actually do actions just based upon that, because we want to see a special prosecutor. We don't want that one person to have his hand on those cases. Demand number three, we want the police held accountable for the use of deadly force. As Barbara Wing spoke about earlier, there is no accountability. So if I know I can get away with it, if I know that it's padded here and things are lost here, things are added there, then what would stop me from wanting to or taking that next step? Now, I know one thing that we've seen and we've heard several times is that, well, it's the training. It's the training. Well, this officer just wasn't trained properly. That's not an excuse for deadly force. So each one should be held accountable separately for each one of these crimes. And number four, ending over-policing and the criminalization of poverty. all the random stops that you get. There are places in St. Louis where you go and there are 5 police cars sitting together. The laser is up somewhere off of a hill, and the police are sitting there waiting to stop you and pull you over. We want to stop that. Actually, one thing that we've been talking about is just like the fire department, they stay at the firehouse until there's a fire. We're saying, well, why can't the police stay at their house until they're needed, until they're called? Why do they have to be out? Why do they have to be stopping people and following people, running plates just because they're behind someone? The 90 municipalities throughout the St. Louis County area, 90 municipalities, they're all closely linked. You walk a couple blocks and you're in the next municipality. But from one side of the street to the other side of the street, you had one set of laws on one side of the street, another set of laws on the other side of the street. So you can go from one, you can take a drive about 20 minutes, and you can, if you have a tail light out, you could get 4 tickets. It's so we really want to crack down on the criminalization of poverty, because the people are getting tickets. They don't have the money. So some of the reasons why their plates were out, or whatever the reason is, it's because they didn't have the money. So then when you add a ticket to them, they don't have the money to pay the ticket. Then they get a warrant for their arrest because they didn't pay the ticket. And so now they have an even bigger fee, and then they have court fees, and now they're risking going to jail. Some of them lose their jobs because they're in jail for 2 or 3 days because of these warrants. Demand number 5, representative police force and intentional officer training. We want our police force to look like us. Why not? Why do we have police that are coming in 30, 40 minutes away? They live nowhere near the neighborhood, and they come in and they police the area, and then they go back to where they're from. We want police that are accountable to us. They live in the neighborhood. They look like us. That's who we want policing us, because then there is accountability to the people, and then you're protecting and serving, and we can trust you with that. Intentional officer training. There are cases where we have bad cops in St. Louis right now who it's like in the Von Derek Myers case, who were just known to be bad cops, or they had some kind of issues going on, and they're still on the force, or they would just move from one force to another instead of something else happening, or giving them some time off, or having some psych evaluations done. They're still on a force. I think there was a situation that happened to me the night the non-indictment came down for Darren Wilson in St. Louis, November 24th, 2014. I was out there as a medic this particular night, still a protester. I'm always a protester. Always a protester, regardless. Clergy, whatever, I'm going to be a protester. So I'm chanting, I'm doing all of that. But this particular night, the tear gas was deployed so heavily that, and the funny thing is, I'm used to the tear gas. I'm used to the tear gas. I have asthma, but I know how to handle my asthma. And so it's just this particular night, so much tear gas deployed so quickly that people began to really retreat. And I became so overwhelmed by just being tired of it. I was trying to help the people. I'm spraying people with Maalox and water and doing things to help people. And I was leaving. And I heard someone scream out, "She's having a heart attack. She's going unconscious. Something's wrong with my mother. Can't help. And as a nurse, I'm thinking, oh, do I want to go back? But I wanted to get away from the tear gas. It was just an enormous amount. And so, but I knew I could not leave that lady. So I turned back and I went to go see what was going on with the lady. When I went to the lady, when I stepped to her, her eyes were rolling in the back of her head and she was slumping over. So she slumped over on me. I laid her down on the ground. I had people around me helping. And I was actually smacking her on her face to try to get her to at least come back to some consciousness, trying to keep her awake, asking her name, and I got her up enough to tell me what medication she was on. Because she told me the medication she was on, I knew what could really be happening. So we called the ambulance, but of course they couldn't get through. So we hurried and tried to carry her down to the fire station. Now, in front of the fire station, that's where the Unified Command was. I won't go through the whole story, but they were lined up, and we knew that the only way we would be safe is if we went through the live broadcast of CNN and a few other MSNBC. If we went right through their live broadcast with this body, that we would be safer. We went right through it, and it did not go very well. And as a result, I was knocked down by the police. They threw me down. I kept saying, I'm the nurse helping her. I'm the nurse helping her. She's unconscious. She's limp. I thought that she was on her way out. And so I would not let her go because I felt like I needed to make sure that she at least got to someone that could help her. Well, they threw me on the ground. I was kicked. They tried to arrest me. They tear gassed me heavily because they thought I was a threat. And anyway, it was just a horrible situation as I was trying to help this person. My reason for saying that was because officer training could have helped that situation, because I'm a woman. I'm telling you, I'm helping. You know, I'm showing you I'm helping. This lady is unconscious. You see it. She's okay. So intentional training would help that situation. Number 6, ending funding for discriminatory police forces. Number 7, Truth and Reconciliation Commission on structural and systematic inequalities in Missouri. And that's great because we have the truth telling weekend coming up that will really give St. Louis an idea of what this is and how to get involved with it. Number 8, the right to protest. We're mistreated so many times when we're out protesting. It's almost as if, like Dr. Ragland said, they treat us like we're anti-police because we're out there protesting, but we're not anti-police. We're anti-brutality. We're anti-foolishness. So we're going to be out there, and we're going to continue to be out there until that's rectified. And number 9, pass the National End Racial Profiling legislation. Next slide, please. There are several strategies that we have used, some that have worked, some that have not worked so well. And on this slide, I actually just put a picture of some of the actual, to show you that these are the things that we did. Performance of plays, that's a picture of some, it's a mock hanging in front of the old courthouse building a few months back. We're doing displaying the flag with symbolic colors. We have someone that brings a flag to every protest, and actually there are some pictures of her. She always has a flag. Occupy SLU, the nonviolent occupation. They occupied St. Louis University for a week, 6 days. Turning one's back. Whenever someone's up and we disagree with what they're saying, especially if it's Bob McCullough or one of those other people, we turn our backs. We're doing marches, civil disobedience. We're always shutting something down. Over the last 7 days, we've had 6 actions. We have an action tonight, so we're still out there. The clergy bonding together, doing religious processionals. We have our slogans, hands up, don't shoot, everybody knows. We're doing vigils all the time, remembering those that have been slain. Also, we've done petitions to out Jay Nixon and Bob McCullough. We're always trying to contact newspapers to get the real story out. We have our live streamers that definitely get our story out the way that we want it out. Painless protest, that's been throughout Ferguson, and also in the Shaw neighborhood where near the Shaw neighborhood where Vondere Myers was killed. Someone painted beautiful paintings on boards as they boarded up the windows in case the windows were broken out during the protest, and it was a beautiful display. Taunting of officials. We've gone to the homes of certain people and certain officials and just done all kinds of things at their homes in protest. We sing at police departments. We've had walkouts. The kids. Elementary school, high school, middle school, all of them have had walkouts throughout the city where they have walked out of schools, and so much so to where the schools have called and said that if you don't tell your children to go back to school, we're going to charge you. But our small kids are involved. And it's so many more. We have so many more that we've done. The national boycott, I'll go into that. We've done stay-at-homes, and then silence. We use silence as well. Next slide, please. Some of the successes that we've had. One of them was a Ferguson Walmart boycott. This was started out just by some people that live in St. Louis. They decided that one way to do it was to hit the pockets. We have received information that $10,000 was given to the Darren Wilson GoFundMe. So we decided that if Walmart wanted and Sam's wanted to give that money, then we wanted to stop money from coming to them. It reached over 100,000 people in one weekend. We did this on a Saturday and a Sunday. Over 300 cars were turned away. Estimated 40% profit was reportedly lost. I was there. We stopped people in the middle of the streets. People were turning around all over the place, turning around trying to get back out once they heard that that money was given to Darren Wilson. And not just that, just because we needed to get the word out that we're going to hit people where it hurts. Blackout Black Friday, that one, they had projected the sales to be 3 cents over the 2013 sales, but actually they plunged 11% from the 2013, representing a dollar drop off of nearly $7 billion. And that's just something that people put together on the ground and said, let's not buy. And that's what we were able to accomplish. As a roadmap to where we are going, we're looking at we want to see some of our people in our neighborhoods come up and become the elected officials. We want them on we want them councilmen. We want them to be mayors. We want to get them on the police force once we can work out, once the police force is more accountable. Next slide, please. Failures. I hate to call it failures, but we have had some. I would like to say, remind people there was no study hall for this situation coming. When this happened, we didn't have any warning. This is coming. Read this, prepare that. You know, talk to this person. You know, we didn't know to go to Dr. Lafayette and say, hey, what should we do in this situation? This is about to come. So we were just flying by the seat of our pants, really. It hit. We were energetic. We reacted. And so we did make some mistakes. We didn't make our own narrative. That's a big issue that we're still walking out today. We need to, you need to make your own narrative and keep your own narrative, not letting the media make your narrative, or not letting one particular person somewhere else tell you what you should walk through, how you should do it. No one knows your situation like you do. Keep your narrative your own. We were so excited, we started just doing anything. A flyer came out with, oh yeah, we're going to do that, but we didn't realize where those things were coming from. Now we're taking hold of our movement. We allowed the media to exploit the people of Ferguson, saying that they were poor and desolate. One thing that we saw when we were on the ground was that the media would come and say, we were right there in the Canfield Apartments, and they would come and say, oh wow, is this the right place? Because it looks so nice. Yeah, oh, there's no trash in the street and the people don't look poor. Well, yeah, it was just the way that it was portrayed on TV. We allowed unsafe situations for protesters. Children were out there sometimes till 11, 12 o'clock at night. We didn't have the correct information about what to do when tear gassed, those kind of things. But we have since then worked on that, and those things are better now. Initially, we were unaware of infiltrators and provocateurs. We didn't know to watch for them. So we had people that were throwing rocks or doing things and throwing Molotov cocktails, and we were taking the blame for it. They would do it and hide their hand. Now we know what to look for. We didn't hold fast to our agenda at all times. People would get tired. People would get to the point to where it was about me, or it's about my organization, versus it being about one voice and seeing the end of this police brutality. And then we were ignorant to the available resources. We didn't know what to go after quickly. So that's one thing to know is now we know who has what, how to get to that, or who we need to be connected with to get what we need. Next slide, please. Maintaining nonviolent discipline. A lot of anger, a lot of frustration because these things keep happening, because of the way we're treated on the ground. We had someone that is in a wheelchair. She's just a live streamer who was knocked out of her wheelchair the other day in a protest, and all she was doing was streaming. And she was messed up by the police. And so people are still upset. So these are the things that we're doing to try to offset that. We're having regular protester meetings. We have protester family dinners. We get together and we have dinner together, big dinners, 100, 200 people dinners. And we get together and we talk. It's about the beloved community. So we have to be community. We have to first be community before we can go out and try to make community elsewhere, try to build up. We're saying all people, but we need to first work on our community. Community outreach, food pantries, clothing drives, voter registration drives, youth programs, counseling services. All of these things we're doing currently. We're on the ground doing these things. And it's keeping us busy, helping us to have our focus on where we're going and not where we are, taking our eyes off what we see. Hosting community empowerment events, doing economic workshops. We're really, 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 really big working on this right now. As a part of Better Family Life, we're working on 10 years of organization and group economics, teaching people about co-ops, keeping our money, letting our money circulate in our neighborhoods before it goes out. Instead of circulating once, it needs to circulate 7 or 8 times, 10 times before it leaves our neighborhoods. So working on people, trying to get them to get businesses, and teaching that we want to make sure that people know where to go. Where do I get the loan if I need a loan? How do I get it? What do I need? So we're providing that for people now. Other trainings on government, on laws. We just don't know the laws. When we walked into this situation, we didn't know when they told us, oh, now we have a 5-minute rule. You can't just stand in one spot for 5 minutes. People were getting arrested, tackled to the ground because they stepped over a white line, or because they were standing still for 5 minutes while we were out there. And then they came back and said that law was unconstitutional. But we didn't know that, so we walked in it because we didn't know. Prayer meetings. We're having prayer meetings with protesters. Clergy are having prayer meetings, understanding that we are change. I look at it like I have a mighty light. I don't have a little light. This mighty light of mine, I can use that to make a change in the world. If each one of us, 7 billion people, if each one of us decide I am change, you don't have to feel like I can change the world. But if you decide I want to change myself, I want to change for my family, I want to change my community. If 7 billion people do that, then the world has to change. So remembering that the light drives out the darkness. We don't hate. We know that hate is not going to do anything. You can't push out hate with hate. It's only love that can do that. So we're using light to drive out the darkness. So that's what we're doing in our prayer meetings. Next slide, please. This is not your parents' movement. In this particular movement, there is not one person that is named the leader. We all walk in different ways. We're all walking in different areas in this movement. There are, someone said to me the other day that there are, everybody has their place in war. And that's what we're doing right now. Everybody has their place. Somebody's loud on the bullhorn. Somebody's the one back in the office with the pen. Somebody's the one that's bringing the Band-Aids out. Somebody's bringing the food. Everybody has their place. With this group of people, though, a lot of them I've heard say on the ground, I'm ready to die for this. I'm ready to die for this. So if they take me out, I'm ready. Authority is not respected at all. Don't care who you are. Don't care what color you are. Don't care what your title is. They're just your authority is not respected, and that is what people thrive on. We don't want to. The thought is we don't want to respect authority.
This is non-hierarchical.
Yeah. Right. Right. Exactly. I'll turn it over to you, David.
I think that what you're saying is so right and important. So while this is not our parents' movement, is part of their movement. We are continuing the work that our parents and grandparents put in, because we're living under the same conditions. And this is one of the critiques that we get, right? And you mentioned this. There's many leaders, right?
Yes.
In the Ella Baker model, this is leader full. All of these folks out here on the front lines are leaders, and they are committed. And you see women leading us, and you see people with LGBTQ identities. We encourage safe spaces. If you are homophobic out there, you are not with us. If you are a misogynist, you are not with us. So this is a different kind of movement, and these things came up organically. And one of the things that but the reasons why, people are always asking us, and me and Pastor Corey were having this conversation. People are saying, "Oh, well, you need to be the leader. You need right." This is
Mm-hmm.
this is about people, us who are not as young as some of the folks out there, but we are trying to encourage and help them to get their voice, so they can be out there. So this is community, from the ground up, organic. And one of the things that some of the critiques come from is that people can't pin down one particular person, or they can't pin down, and this particular movement isn't subscribing to the same politics of respectability, because Black Lives Matters means that even if I have a tattoo right here and a tattoo right here and a gold tooth right here, then my life still matters.
Right.
And just because I don't, wear a suit or whatever, or I don't have a education or something like that, my life still matters. And I think this is why it's important that it deviates, so that America can see that every Black life matters, and that we have to fight against that. Uh, um, who actually matters, right? Because you're acting